Hello everyone and welcome back to Carvenus 14. So today we are going to be taking a look at Navia's kit. Yes, if you didn't know, the information for Navia has recently been added onto the PBE for patch 4.3, literally a few hours ago I believe. So here we are making a video on it. So in this video we're going to be going over Navia's kit, her best weapons, her best in-slot artifact sets, her best teammates, and stuff like that, basically. So yeah, if you guys do go to enjoy the video, please put a like and subscribe at the bottom, because it does help a small content creator out. And those of you loyal fans that have been waiting for a video for so long, I do apologize, but you know, second year just started for me, so yeah, I do have university stuff to look at, hence why I was doing majority coursework. However, all that coursework is now finished, so I can focus on YouTube a little bit more, but of course I do have exams coming up, so yeah, you know how it is. Anyway, we will move on with the video. So Navia is a Geo Claymore user, which was pretty much told to us back in patch 4.0 during the trailer. She's a 5-star. And it seems as though she's going to require these materials to actually ascend. So she requires the clockwork component from the I believe from the dancing man and woman, the dancing mechas, basically, that world boss. She's going to need the spring of the first drop, dewdrop. So this is a new material, I believe, that was introduced into Fontaine. She's going to need the transoceanic pearls, which obviously are the sea creatures. And for talents, it's going to be the equity scrolls. And she's also going to need the silk string. I believe this is from the narwhal. Yeah, this is from the narwhal. So yeah. As you guys can see, oh, that's Steam, never mind, Steam, no, not today. So as you guys can see, Navia's Ascension scaling stat is actually crit damage, yeah, which probably tells us that she's going to be a main DPS kind of character. And as for her stats, 12,650 health, which is actually quite nice, 351 base attack as well, which is actually around the DPSing kind of level. So you can probably tell that Navia is going to be more of a DPS-focused Geo character than an actual supportive Geo character, which is good, because we need more of them. So, yeah. In fact, Navia is the first Geo character ever since Jin, which I believe was like nearly 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, yeah. Anyway, guys, these are Navia's. I'm not going to look at the actual numbers, well, not properly. I'm not going to read out all of the numbers for you, but basically Navia performs 4 consecutive strikes. Her third strike actually hits 3 times, so all in all, she hits about 7 times in her actual attack string. So yeah, and that's basically it for her normal attacks, really. Nothing too special there. And that's mainly because Navia is an elemental skilled DPS. That's right, she uses her elemental skill to deal a majority of her damage. So let's go over this together, guys. When a character in the party obtains an elemental shard created from a crystallized reaction, Navia will gain 1 charge of the crystal shrapnel. Navia can hold up to 6 of these charges at once. When she fires, Navia will consume all crystal shrapnel charges and opens her elegant yet lethal gunbrella. I'm presuming that's the umbrella that she's holding in her splash art. It's called a gunbrella, guys, for future reference. She fires multiple shots of Rosula shard shots that can penetrate opponents, dealing geo damage to opponents' hit. Okay, so basically she has a gun, her gunbrella, effectively. It absorbs elemental shards that gives her a charge of crystal shrapnel, and she can hold up to 6 of them, and then when she fires her gunbrella, it shoots all the shrapnels, basically. When 0 to 3 or more crystal shrapnels are consumed, you get 5 to 11 Rosula shard shots. So basically, when you have none, it fires 5, and when you have 3, it will fire the max of 11. Also, if you have 3 or more, it will fire the maximum of 11, guys. Yeah, will be fired respectively. The more Rosula shard shots that strike a single opponent, the greater the damage dealt to them. Okay, so it sounds like it's got ramping damage, basically. So let's say you're hitting a single target, the shard shots are actually going to do more damage to that target, basically. So it's like ramping damage. When all 11 Rosula shard shots strike, they deal 200% of the original amount of damage. Okay, so if you hit all 11 of the Rosula shard shots, basically, the final instance of shard shot, at least from what I'm understanding, deals twice the amount of damage as it normally would have. Okay. a bit like a coup de grace kind of mechanic. In addition, when more than 3 charges of crystal shrapnel are consumed, every charge consumed beyond those 3 will increase the damage dealt by that shot by an additional 15%. Bit of a typo there, guys. But so basically, what that means is when Navia picks up more than 3 charges of the crystal shrapnel, right? Every consumed charge will increase the damage dealt by an additional 15%. So basically, guys, what that means is if you have like 4 charges, all your damage dealt is going to be increased by 15%. However, if you have all 6, it's going to be increased by 15 times 3, right? Which is basically 45%. So basically, if you get up to 6 crystal shrapnels consumed during this elemental skill, your crystal shrapnels will deal an additional 45% on top of the damage that they normally would do. Yeah, and it seems as though, provided you attack the exact same target, your Rosula shard shots will actually deal more damage with each and every shot, which actually adds onto this even more, and the final shot seems to deal 200% of the original damage. You can see that this elemental skill alone is stacked, like, really high. So yeah, when you hold it, you enter aiming mode while collecting elemental shards, guys. So basically, it sounds as though her elemental skill is like a vacuum when you hold it down. So it absorbs elemental shards, a little bit like Goro's ultimate. You know how Goro's ultimate actually absorbs crystal shards? Yeah, it's like that, basically. 2 initial uses. Oh, so you get 2 charges of this elemental skill. Okay, so you have 2 charges of this skill, guys. That's actually really nice. Yeah, her alignment, guys. All Fontanian characters have an alignment, and that's either Weijia or Numa. Now, Navia is the Weijia alignment, and periodically, when Navia fires her Gunbrella, a Surging Blade will be summoned, dealing Weijia-aligned geo damage. Yeah. And these are her scaling, guys. As you can see, even at level 1, her elemental skill has 307.2% base damage. That is ridiculously high. That is stupid high for an elemental skill to have. So you can clearly tell that this is meant to be the skill that deals damage for Navia. And if you decide to take her up to level 6, that's 430%. Level 8 is 491.52%. And level 10 is a whopping 552.96. 553%, guys. That's a lot of damage. And the Surging Blade damage, guys, is the Weijia-aligned damage. So this is obviously not a lot, because it's not the main focus. But yeah, Surging Blade interval. So it's on a 7-second cooldown, guys. So every 7 seconds, this blade is going to fall. It's got a cooldown of 9 seconds, but obviously you have 2 charges of this, guys. So if you utilize the timing well, you can have a pretty decent uptime of her elemental skill, which is really nice. Now, her ultimate, as the sunlit skies singing salute, the alliteration is absolutely impeccable on that one. On the orders of the president of the Spina de Rosula, call for a magnificent golden rose salute, unleashes a massive bombardment on opponents in front of her, dealing AoE geo damage and providing fire support for a duration afterwards, periodically dealing geo damage when attacks from the golden rose salute hit opponent. Oh, sorry. Hold on, guys. Well, that's a full stop there. So basically, the first bit of this, guys, is she will basically summon like a golden rose salute attack, which deals massive instance of AoE geo damage, and then there'll be periodic geo damage that happens afterwards. When attacks from the golden rose salute hit an opponent, Navia will gain 1 charge of crystal shrapnel. This effect can be triggered up to once every 2.4 seconds. So this is another way to build her crystal shrapnel stacks, remember, guys, which is really important for her elemental skill up here. Yeah. The skill's damage is actually not amazingly high, 76% at level 1, scaling all the way to 136.8% at level 10. But like I said, guys, this is not really a tool used for damage. This is more of a tool used to stack up her crystal shards even more. Yeah, so it looks like the 2 ways to gain crystal shards for Navia is obviously number 1 with her elemental burst, right? And number 2 by getting crystallized reactions from obviously crystallization reactions with Geo and another element. Yeah. Fire support damage that happens periodically is also not as high, but you know what? It is what it is. Fire support duration. The burst goes on instantly, but then after that the fire support duration is 12 seconds, which is actually quite high, especially considering that the elemental skill cooldown is 15 seconds and her burst cost is only 60, which means that you don't actually need to build a load of energy recharge on Navia in order to get this up, because if you guys didn't know, characters that have energy costs of 60 and below really don't require a lot of energy recharge, which is nice. That's really nice. So yeah, which means you can just focus more on, you know, crit damage, attack percent, geo damage bonus from the sounds of things. So yeah. So these are her passive skills, guys. Painstaking transaction. Gain 25% more rewards when dispatched on a Fontaine expedition for 20 hours. Okay, so a little bit like how Shen He has the exact same passive, I should say, but for Liuwei. Yeah. Then her first ascension passive, guys, undisclosed distribution channels. For 4 seconds after using ceremonial crystal shot, which if you guys didn't know is her elemental skill, as you can see. 4 seconds after she uses her elemental skill, the damage dealt by Navia's normal, charged and plunging attacks will be converted into geo damage, which cannot be overridden by other elemental infusions, and the damage dealt by Navia's normal attacks, charge attacks and plunging attacks will be increased by 40%. That is really high. Wow. Now, just to let you guys know, this doesn't mean that the geo damage is increased by 40%. It just means that the normal charge and plunging base damage is increased by 40%. So you guys see the scaling here, right? All of this is going to be increased by 40%. That's what it means, basically. Yeah. Not the actual geo damage itself. You're not going to gain geo damage bonus on your elemental, on your stuff when it's like geo infused. Yeah, but it's quite nice. It's a little bit extra DPS when Navia doesn't have her elemental skill up, which is really nice. So yeah, and then there's her fourth ascension passive, guys. Mutual Assistant Network. For each Pyro, Electro, Cryo, or Hydro party member, Navia gains 20% attack, and this can stack up to 2 times. Okay, well that already tells you how you want to build Navia. You need to at least have 2 other characters of these elements, guys, in her party. So either a Pyro or an Electro character, a Cryo or a Hydro character, or a Pyro or a Cryo or Electro or Hydro. You guys get it, right? Yeah. Of course, this only works when 1 character is actually in the party. So you can't have 2 Pyro characters and get 2 of the stacks. You need to have 1 of each element in, basically, guys. That's the way that I think this works. Yeah. Now, as for constellations, obviously, since I'm free to play, I'm not actually going to be getting these constellations, or maybe I might not even go for Navia at all, but you never know. So, yeah, constellations. A lady's rule for keeping a courteous distance, C1. For each charge of crystal shrapnel consumed when Navia uses her elemental skill will restore 2 energy to her and decrease the cooldown of her elemental burst by 1 second. So basically, guys, every time she gets a stack of her elemental skill, she'll restore 2 energy to her and decrease her elemental burst's cooldown by 1 second. And this can go up to 6 energy and up to, okay, and the crystal, oh, okay, this way, and the elemental skill can be decreased up to 3 seconds. I don't know if this is a typo for this, because this kind of just seems as though it was introduced out of nowhere for this constellation. I have a feeling this might actually be for her elemental burst. I'm presuming it is, and it's just a typo here. But if not, this is still a really nice constellation to have, actually. Yeah. Is it her best? Is it the best one so far? I mean, I can't tell. I haven't read all of them, so I guess we'll keep going, guys. President's Victory... Pursuit of Victory, I should say. Her C2. The crit rate of her elemental skill is increased up to 8% for each charge. Huh? So her elemental skill crit rate is increased by 8%, and it can go up to 24%, so it can only stack up to 3 times, guys. But in addition, the elemental skill hits an opponent 1 shot of fire support from her burst will strike near the location of the hit. Up to 1 instance of fire support can be triggered each time the crystal shot is used. The damage, the damage dealt by fire support in this way is considered elemental burst damage. Okay, guys, so this constellation actually seems pretty decent, because it basically gives you elemental skill, 24% increased crit rate, and every time every time your elemental skill hits an opponent, you're going to be summoning one of the fire support from the actual burst. Yeah, it seems as though this can only be used every time you use your elemental skill. It doesn't matter how many charges you have or how many times your elemental skill hits. If it will only trigger once. So basically, because your elemental skill has 2 charges, guys, this can only happen. The fire support will only happen twice in the actual elemental skill. Once for the first time and another for the second time you use it. So I believe that's the way it works. It's still a really nice constellation though. Yeah. Her C3 increases her elemental skill by 3, which is actually quite nice, considering that she is an elemental skill DPS. And then her C4, when her elemental burst hits an opponent, the opponent's geo resistance will be decreased by 20% for 8 seconds. Okay, that's really good. That is a really amazing constellation for her. Yeah. C5 is increasing the elemental burst by 3, which again is actually quite nice. It's not as amazing as her C3 because this is definitely better in terms of damage compared to this. So this is not as amazing. Probably the worst constellation out of all of them in my opinion. So yeah. As far as I can tell, we haven't read C6 yet. And the flexible finesse of the Spina's president. So this is her C6. If more than 3 charges of crystal shrapnel are consumed when using the elemental skill, each charge consumed beyond the first 3 increases the crit damage of the actual crystal shots by 35%. And any charge consumed beyond the first 3 are returned to Navia. Wait. So, if I'm reading this correctly, guys, basically, when you get up to more than 3 charges of the crystal shrapnel, right, her elemental skill will actually have increased crit damage by 35%. Yeah. Each charge consumed beyond the first 3 increases the crit damage of the... Oh my god. Okay, so basically, guys, if you have 3 or more charges of crystal shot, your elemental skill will get an increased crit damage of 35%. Yeah. So if you have 4, 5, or 6, right, charges, then your crystal shot is going to be dealing 35% extra crit damage, basically. Yeah, that is actually quite nice. And her charges, the charges consumed beyond the first 3 are returned to Navia. So basically, guys, if you consume more than 3 charges, right, the first 3 charges are returned to Navia. So it will make it easier to stack up her charges again. This is actually really nice, to be fair. This is a really nice constellation. So I would definitely say that Navia's C2, C4, and C6 are her best ones. Her C1 is also nice, but it's more for utility, really. Yeah, Navia doesn't really have a bad constellation. In fact, her C3, the only bad constellation here is probably her C5, simply because her burst doesn't really do a lot of damage anyway, and is mainly just there to supplement for her elemental skill. So it doesn't. So her C5 is kind of the worst constellation here. But other than that, honestly, all her constellations are actually really nice. Which one is the best? I would definitely say probably her C6, simply because of the way that it works, like extra crit damage and you return the first 3 charges. That is really nice. Her C, then second place, I would definitely say, actually, to be brutally honest, I would say C2, C4, and C6 are all tied for like first place. Then it would be C3 for second, or I should probably say fourth, and then C5, and then C1 I should say for like fifth. Yeah. So basically, to summarize Navia's kit, guys, she seems to be an elemental skill DPS. Yeah, that kind of wants to have not a mono geo team, basically. More of a rainbow kind of comp. Yeah, she actually seems pretty good. Now, next, we shall move on to her best in slot weapons. So basically, guys, what we're looking for is effectively, you know, anything to do with DPSing. So attack percent, stuff like that. Yeah. Now, if you guys didn't realize, Navia doesn't seem to actually lose HP within her kit, which is very unique to Fontanian characters, because all Fontanian characters have some form of losing HP and gaining HP. So Navia seems to be the only character that can't actually do that, which is actually very unique to Fontanian characters. Yeah, but anyway, we are going to... we are going to be looking at some 4-star weapons that will be really good with her. None of the energy recharge options. The Royal Greatsword, upon damaging an opponent, increases the crit rate by 8%. to be fair, Royal Greatsword might actually be decent with Navia simply because, you know, of the way that her elemental skill works, because it increases the crit rate up to, like, you know, by 8%, up to 40%. A crit hit will remove all of the stacks, but because Navia actually hits so many times with her elemental skill, I feel as though the Royal Greatsword could actually be a really good option for Navia if you do have it. Now, some people probably won't have this weapon because because this weapon is a shop rotation. You know, you guys know in the monthly Paimon bargain shop, this rotates with Blackcliff, with the Blackcliff weapons. The Blackcliff weapons are just better compared to the Royal Greatsword. So not a lot of people will have it, but if you did get this weapon by mistake, I feel as though this would actually be a really good weapon for Navia to use. Again, Prototype Archaic I don't think will actually be amazing here simply because it works off normal and charge attacks only. Yeah, so this will probably not be an amazing weapon to use, especially since Navia's not a normal and charge attack DPS, more of an elemental skill DPS. So I would kind of stay away from Prototype Archaic, guys. Blacklist Slasher is obviously going to be a great option simply because it's just a stat stick. It gives you 55% crit damage when at level 90, and this is a really good snowball passive. The only drawback to this weapon is the passive is completely useless in a boss fight. Let's say you're going against a boss with no one else around, you can't actually get the passive to work. So in a boss fight, this weapon literally just becomes a stat stick, but even then, it's still really, really good. Serpent Spine gives you crit rate, which is kind of what Navia needs, especially since her Ascension passive is crit damage. So crit rate would be nice, right? And every 4 seconds a character's on the field, they will deal 6%. Yeah, see, because Navia is an elemental skill DPS, right? That does require her to be on field. Serpent Spine is really good. Lithic Blade is also actually not a bad option, but the thing is Navia's not a Liu Weiyan character in the first place, so it's not exactly optimal for her. But if you manage to get like 3 Liu Weiyan characters in Navia's team, then it could actually not be. This is actually not a bad option either. I should probably get more on, yeah. This is really, no Snow Tomb Star Silver. Luxurious Sea Lord. Now, this weapon isn't really amazing on her simply because it's more of an elemental burst weapon, not really an elemental skill weapon. So I would stay away from the Luxurious Sea Lord. Then there's Katsura Gikiri Katsugakiri Nagamasa. Okay, this weapon is energy recharge, so it's not amazing, but it does increase the elemental skill damage by 6%. Yeah, and it can stack. Can it be stacked? No, it can't be stacked. So yeah, not really a great weapon, guys. Would not go for this one. Akuamara, this is, once again, elemental burst, so really not brilliant. So, yeah, there's not really a lot of 4-star weapons that are actually amazing for Navia, to be brutally honest. Yeah, Forest Regalia, no, Talking Stick, the Talking Stick, I can't get over that name. The Talking Stick is such an interesting name for this weapon. Yeah. Attack will be increased by 16% for 15 seconds after being affected by Pyro. All elemental damage bonus will be increased by 12% for 15 seconds after being affected by... Yeah, so... The thing is, guys, is you need to be affected by these certain elements in order to really get this weapon to work well. So I wouldn't really call this optimal. It's not a bad weapon per se, but it's definitely not optimal. How much does the crit rate actually go up by? Because that could definitely make a difference. Only 18%. Yeah, really not that much, guys. Really not that much at all. So honestly, I probably personally would not go for this weapon. I'm not going to lie, the Talking Stick. Like, it seems good, but it literally has all of the elements but Geo. And Navia cannot affect herself with any of these weapons. I'm presuming what it means by affecting yourself is you need to infuse your attacks with these elements, and obviously Navia can't do that. Yeah, so I wouldn't really recommend this weapon, the Talking Stick. It's kind of unfortunate. The tidal shadow is... Oh, right, this is a new Fontanian weapon. Oh, this is one of the new craftable weapons I completely forgot back in patch 4.0. So after the wielder is healed, your attack is increased by 24% for 8 seconds. This can be triggered even when the character's not on the field. So this is also not a bad option, guys. But obviously Navia can't actually heal herself or, you know, lose her own health, because Navia, as far as I can tell, is the only character in the game that's Fontanian and cannot actually heal or lose HP, which is very unique to Fontanian characters. So you will need a healer if you actually want to use this weapon with Navia. Yeah, but then again, in order to be healed, you need to take damage, right? So yeah, that's a bit of an if. That's a really big if, to be honest. So yeah. What else is there? There is this ultimate. There's the new. Oh, is this the? Yeah, it is. This guy's Ultimate Overlord's Mega Magic Sword is a new 4.3 weapon that is coming out in the next patch. It is a new weapon. It gives energy recharge and the attack is increased by 12%. That's not all. The support from all the Melusines you've helped in the Marusha village fills you with strength based on the number you've helped. Oh, that is such a unique weapon. Wait, what? So this weapon actually actively requires you to do world quests in order to actually get the best benefit of this. Obviously, people that do the world quest, this is like a really big buff. But if you haven't done the world quest, then, you know, it's not going to be an amazing weapon. But it does give ER, which isn't a bad stat to have on Navia, but you don't want to prioritize it. So, yeah, this weapon is okay, but only because of the passive. And it really depends if you've actually done the world quests or not. Go away. Thank you. The portable power sword. This weapon, guys, is not amazing for Navia. It gives HP %, which she just does not scale with at all. And the passive is just not there for Navia at all either. So yeah, anyway, moving on to the 5 stars. Skyward Pride, no. Wolf's Gravestone, yeah. This, guys, is an attack % weapon. It increases your attack by 20%. On-hit attacks against your opponents with less than 30 HP increase your party members' attack by 40%. So this is actually not a bad option for Navia, and because it's a 5-star weapon that came out way back in the day of patch 1.0, back when I was playing the game, right, when I was a child. So yeah, this is actually not a bad weapon, and because it's an old 5-star weapon, some people will actually have this weapon. So yeah, so I'm gonna, nope. The Unforged is, nope. This does give you attack % to be fair, but it's only really good if you pair this with a shielder. So if you do have a shielding unit, then this could actually be not a bad option. If you want Redhorn Stone Thresher, this is actually not a bad option. Now I know what it says. It basically, the defense is increased by 28%, and your normal and charge attack damage is increased by 40% of defense. Now, this weapon isn't ideal for Navia simply because, well, I say that, but I completely lie. This weapon is absolutely amazing on Navia because the crit damage goes all the way up to 88%. Like, that's it. Even if this passive just didn't exist, even if this weapon didn't have a passive at all, this weapon would be Navia's, like, one of Navia's best weapons simply because the damage is just insane with the crit damage it provides. But normal and charge attacks damage is increased by 40% of the defense. So Navia won't be building a lot of defense. So this passive isn't really amazing. And it also works off normal and charge attack damage. But the thing is, guys, is if you didn't see, Navia's passive, right? One of Navia's passive, where is it? Yeah, this one right here. After she uses her elemental skill, right, Navia's, what is it? All of Navia's charged, normal, and plunging attacks is infused with Geo, and they're increased by 40%. Right, so Navia does actually infuse her attacks with Geo, even though it's not actually going to be for a long time. This passive is still kind of nice to have. Since the damage does scale with 40% of defense, you're not going to be prioritizing defense, right? But it already increases Navia's defense by 28%, right? Yeah, and Navia's defense, this is the wrong page. Navia's defense is around 790, so it's not amazingly high, guys, but it's still not bad, right? It's still not bad. So this is still a really good weapon to have. Even if this passive didn't exist, I would definitely say that this weapon is beyond broken or really stacked for Navia. So yeah, Beacon of the Reed Sea. This is Dia's weapon, if you didn't know. After a character's elemental skill hits an opponent, their attack is increased by 20% for 8 seconds. After the character takes damage, their attack will be increased by 20% for 8 seconds. The two aforementioned effects can be triggered even when the character is not on field. Additionally, when not protected by a shield, the character's max HP will be increased by 32%. So, once again, this weapon is actually quite nice for Navia, specifically because it gives crit rate, which Navia needs because it kind of contradicts her Ascension passive, which is nice, but it works in tandem with her elemental skill. All right, guys. The only problem with this is that you kind of do want to take damage, and like I said, if Navia could reliably lose HP within her kit, like all other Fontanians, this would be a really good weapon for her. But unfortunately, she can't. So in order to take full use of it, she kind of needs to get hit, right? Which might not be ideal, specifically when Navia is using her elemental skill. There's a chance that because of the way it works, I'm presuming it works kind of like Nouvelette's charge attack. Like, he can get hit out of it, so I'm presuming Navia could also get hit out of her elemental skill. Specifically because she doesn't seem to gain resistance to interruption either. That might actually be a bit of a problem. So yeah. This weapon is not a bad option, but I wouldn't say I would definitely say this is actually a pretty decent option, specifically because of the way it works. So if you guys do have Beacon of the Reed Sea, this is definitely a good option to go for. You just won't be receiving 100% of the benefits of it. And then consider Judgment. Now, this is a battle axe, guys, and yes, this is Navia's best in slot weapon. This is her gacha weapon. It's a battle axe. She has a battle axe as a weapon, which is so damn cool. Yeah, so the passive is it increases your attack by 20%, and it gives crit rate as a substat. When characters in your party obtain crystal shards from the crystallized reaction, this includes Navia herself, the equipping character will gain 1 seal. This increases the damage of her elemental skill by 18%, and the seals last for 15 seconds. The equipper can have up to 2 seals at one time, which means that this can go up to 36% increased elemental damage, right? And all of the equipper's seals will disappear 0.2 seconds after their elemental skill deals damage. Now, guys, this passive does not have a cooldown. There's no cooldown here, and the seals last for 15 seconds. Now, the way Navia works is she kind of, from what I can understand, at least according to the leaks, guys, is Navia's elemental skill absorbs crystallized shards, a bit like Goro's ultimate, how it absorbs crystallized shards around him. Yeah, it's a bit like that. So this passive is actually kind of good. Yeah. Actually really good, because you could easily get this up to 36% and then completely like blow it up basically, and then just get more during the second charge. So Navia can have really decent uptime with the actual elemental skill of this weapon. Yeah. Passive, I should say. Now, the bonus crit rate goes up to 22%, which isn't high, right? Because this is actually less than than an actual crit rate helmet, which gives up to 31%. But the base attack is really high, and as you guys know, Navia's base attack is kind of important because of the way that her elemental skill works. Attack percent is really good. So, yeah. And if you guys do want to see what the actual refinement ranks go up to, it goes all the way up to 40% here, 36% here, which means, yes, double, that is like 72% elemental skill damage. So, excuse me. So, anyone that's willing to spend a lot of dosh on this Prima girl, you're in for a very fun time. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, that is basically the weapon. So what will I actually say for her weapons? In terms of 4 stars, not really a lot of great options apart from the Royal Greatsword in my honest opinion. Yeah, as well as Serpent Spine and Blackcliff Slasher. Honestly, the only real good weapons for Navia, I would say, in the 4 stars is probably the Royal's Greatsword, Blackcliff Slasher, and the Serpent Spine. That's basically it. And maybe the Lithic Blade, but that depends on your party composition. Yeah. But in terms of 5 stars, guys, I would definitely say Wolf's Gravestone, Unforged, with the right composition, of course. Unforged is a bit of hit or miss, but it depends on your team comp. The Wolf's Gravestone, Unforged, Red Hornstone Thresher, as well as Beacon of the Reed Sea, and her best in slot are definitely the best weapons for her. So if you guys can get any one of those, amazing. Now, let's move on to her not her party members, that's last. We'll move on to her artifact sets. Now, guys, as for artifact stats, obviously the flower and feather are fixed, you can't change that. Her element, what is it? For the timepiece, you want to go attack percent. Easily attack percent, because you got nothing else going on for her with defense or HP. You want to go for attack percent. Now, as for her goblet, that is easily the geo damage bonus goblet. You definitely want a good geo damage bonus goblet for her. So yeah, because all of the damage she's going to be doing is geo damage. And then as for the last piece, now that depends on your weapon. If you have a crit rate weapon, go for crit damage. If you have a crit damage weapon, go for a crit rate helmet. Yeah, but I would definitely say, guys, if you are using her best in slot weapon, you know, the battle axe, considered judgment, right? I would still say go for a crit rate helmet, simply because I don't believe it's going to provide that much crit rate. Like, those two combined will still only provide you around 53% crit rate alone. Of course, this takes into account you don't have any substats or anything like that. So, yeah. If you do get lucky with the substats, then you know the thing 1 to 2. So yeah. Now we're gonna look at some of her artifacts. Yeah, her best in slot artifacts. So we go down to here. Blizzard Strayer, no. Gladiator's Finale, the 2-piece is good, but not the 4-piece. So yeah, it's not amazing, Gladiator's Finale. Because Navia is an elemental skill DPS, the artifact sets that she can use are very, very niche. So yeah, it would be very they would be very niche, so there's not a lot of artifact sets that kind of work with her. So yeah, we'll just skip all of these because we know that they're not going to be amazing for her to use. Archaic Petra, the 2-piece is not a bad option, right? In fact, the 4-piece is also not a bad option. You could go 4-piece Archaic Petra because of the passive. Upon obtaining an elemental shard created through the crystallized reaction, all party members gain 35% damage bonus for that particular element for 10 seconds. Yeah, so this is only specific to one element, which is kind of unfortunate. But Archaic Petra, you can put it on Navia, but it is not going to be brilliant against opponents that are, you know, a certain elemental type. So it's not amazing, but it's not a bad option either. Retracing Belied, no. Definitely not. Absolute 0. No chance for this happening. Easily no. Yeah, actually, Golden Troop. Golden Troop increases elemental Skrill elemental skill damage by 20%. Speak English, man. All right. Okay, well, as you can see, Golden Troop, the 2-piece alone is already really good. Increases elemental skill damage by 25%. Additionally, when not on the field, elemental skill damage will be further increased by 25%. This effect will be cleared 2 seconds after taking the field. So, yeah, Golden Troop, guys, is actually really good because the 2-pieces, it increases your elemental skill damage by 20%. Number 1. So that means Navia's elemental skill damage is going to be increasing, going to be dealing 20% extra damage. And the 4-piece, again, increases elemental skill damage by 25%. So basically, right off the bat, the 4-piece gives you 45% increased elemental skill damage. Yeah. Which, is actually really good because 45% is obviously a lot of extra damage. But the problem is additionally when not on the field, elemental skill damage will be so obviously if you combine all of these, that would be like 70% elemental skill damage. But unfortunately, Navia is an on-field DPS, so this latter part, guys, is not going to be available. Yeah, so you're only going to be getting 45%, but that's still really good. So Golden Troop, a really, really good elemental skill, artifact set that you can use. Songs of Day Past, this is more of a healing artifact set, so definitely not. And, Nighttime Whispers in the Echoing Woods. Now this, guys, is Navia's best in-slot artifact set. This is actually tailor-made for her, so this increases your attack by 18%. When using an elemental skill, gain the Heart of Gold effect for 10 seconds. Now this will basically mean that you gain 16% geo damage bonus while under the effect of a shield granted by the crystallization reaction, right? Which obviously Navia can get really easily. The geo damage bonus provided by Heart of Gold will be increased by 150%, and this additional increase disappears 1 second after that shield is lost. So basically, guys, after you gain an elemental what is it? When you use your elemental skill, you'll gain 16% increased geo damage bonus, and when you get a shield from the crystallization reaction, your geo damage bonus is increased by 150%. What that means, guys, is it's geo damage bonus provided by Heart of Gold. So not geo damage bonus that you have on your character or on Navia. It's the geo damage bonus provided by this Heart of Gold effect, basically, which means it's 150% extra to this 16%. Now, 150%, guys, of 16 is basically 16 multiplied by 1.5, which, if you do the quick math, is 24%. I did not use a calculator for that at all. Because I spoke directly from you guys. Yeah, 16% multiplied by 150%, guys, is 24%. So that means when you have a crystallization reaction, your geo damage bonus is increased by 24%. But the additional damage increase is gone 1 second after the shield is lost. So if the shield does break or it fades away after a while, you will go down to 16% again. So yeah, what is the best artifact set for Navia? I would definitely say, in terms of uptime, in terms of reliability, this set is definitely the best, guys. Nighttime Whispers in the Echoing Woods, this is definitely the best one, because Navia can 100% utilize this entire artifact set. She can use that 100% to the best of her degree. Golden Troop is definitely up there as well, simply because of everything up to here. That's 45% increased skill damage, right? She can't utilize everything, unfortunately, because this is mainly a supportive artifact set, but that still doesn't mean that it's worse than this. In fact, I would definitely say that Golden Troop and Nighttime Whisper in the Echoing Woods is tied for first place in terms of actual damage potential. Yeah, that is honestly how good both of them are. Now, Archaic Petra is also up there, but like I said, Archaic Petra is really not amazing. It's just the two-piece you would use it for. Yeah, and that's about it. So, yeah, that's basically it for the artifact sets, guys. As you can tell, there's not really a lot of artifact sets that Navia can actually use, simply because of the way that her kit is created. So, yeah. It is unfortunate that she can't use many sets, but it also does narrow it down as to which her best in slot is. Now, guys, moving on to the last section of this video, the men and women and boys and girls going to be partnered with this French lady that also happens to dress like a British woman and has gameplay of an American. She's an interesting hybrid, triplet woman. Yes. Anyway, we'll move on. So, as you guys can tell, from freaking Navia, sorry, Navia's passive, you want a Pyro or Electro or Cryo or Hydro party member. Now, you can only, this effect starts up to 2, so for the way this works, guys, you can't actually have 2 or more party members within the same team. So you can't have 2 Pyro characters, because that will still only count as 1 stack, right? Yeah, it has to be unique. So, because of that, I'm thinking you want another Geo unit. Simply because another Geo unit would allow Navia to get even more crystallization reactions. So, mainly because Navia can apply a Geo element quite a bit, but you want another character, like another Geo character. So, I'm thinking someone like Ning Guang would actually be not a bad effect, simply because Ning Guang's Jade Curtain actually increases your Geo damage bonus. So, Ning Guang could actually be a decent character to use as a support. Zhongli, obviously, he's going to be amazing, simply because his Geo application is really good. He can hold units down with his Petrify mechanic, with his burst, and he gives you a really fat shield. So, yeah. Noelle, I wouldn't really say is an amazing character to pair with Navia, simply because Noelle doesn't apply Geo amazingly, and because of the way her burst works, is robbing Navia of her uptime. Albedo is decent, I would say, but yeah, Albedo's pretty decent to use with Navia because his Geo application is really good, but he kind of specializes in defense and Navia can't provide anything like that for him. Goro isn't really amazing with Navia because, again, he's Geo defense. Arataki Ito, obviously not. Yunjin isn't a bad bet, but Yunjin boosts normal attack damage, which Navia isn't really going to be doing. So realistically, the only good supports I can really recommend as a Geo support battery to Navia is probably Zhongli, Ningguang, and Albedo. And only one of them is really free to play with Ningguang. The other two you kind of need to get with them. Now, another character I would say is actually quite good with Navia is actually Bennett. Where is he? Yeah, Bennett. Simply because Bennett provides attack boost, which is what Navia kind of wants with her elemental skill. And she can also heal her as well. So that's good. And the whole point of Navia, the way her kit works, is you kind of just want to sit there and shoot people, right? With her elemental skill. So because you're going to be not moving around a lot with her elemental skill, Bennett's circle is actually not going to be that big of a hindrance, right? So Bennett might actually be a really decent support here. Yeah. But of course, you can really use any element, guys. Like, Navia really doesn't fit into any team. Apart from Mono Geo, she definitely doesn't fit. I mean, what I mean to say, sorry, I worded that wrong. Navia can really go well with anyone. Obviously, except for Anemo and Dendro. You definitely don't want an Anemo or a Dendro unit on your team, simply because they don't make crystallized reactions. But anyone that is Geo for battery capabilities, or heck, you might not even want another... No, you do want another Geo character, guys. Here's why. Because if you didn't know... the Geo Resonance is really damn strong on Navia, because what the Geo Resonance does is it increases shield strength by 15%. And that also includes crystallized shards, guys. Yeah. So the crystallized shards are already going to be better, number one. And number two, your damage dealt is going to be increased by 15%. Damage dealt is amazing because it increases your crit damage dealt, because it kind of comes on at the end of all the damage calculations. So it takes into account attack, crit damage, any reactions and stuff like that, and then it adds on the 15% after. So really, really nice, right? And on top of that, it decreases opponents' geo resistance by 20%, I should say. Yeah, so the Geo Resonance is going to be amazing with Navia. Yeah. So I would definitely say you definitely want Navia and another Geo character, simply for the Geo Resonance and how great it is, right? The other two characters are really just flex rolls, but I would recommend Bennett because of the way that Bennett's kit works really well with Navia. Like, you can just plant Bennett's circle down and just let Navia stay there and just shoot out her crystal shards and stuff like that, basically. So yeah. So realistically, guys, any one character that has the element of Geo, Pyro, Cryo, Hydro, or Electro is really amazing with Navia. And that's the thing I love about Navia. She seems to be really flexible and very simple to build, right? As well as have a very simple kit. Like, her kit is basically just... do crystallized reactions, I'll absorb them and do damage with it. That's it. That's literally Navia's kit simplified down to a single line. That is it. So, yeah. That's basically it in terms of the video, guys. There's really not much else to go on. I feel as though this has been a shorter video, but once again, I waffle on for hours upon hours on end. So, yeah, I guess I will leave it there, guys. Tell me down in the comments below if you're going to be pulling for Navia. And, I will see you all in the next video, I guess. I have been Carvenus14 and still am, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. If you're watching this in England and it does go live, you probably don't have much of a day left, simply because it's, I think it's nearly 7 o'clock or something like that. There's no clock in this room. So, yeah. I hope you all have a brilliant day, / brilliant night, / brilliant sleep, / brilliant... 3 a.m. gaming session and TikTok session, I guess. But yeah, I will see you all in the very next video. Goodbye.